Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Mungy,
Here.
Vice President Matthews,
Here.
Treasurer Bramsher is absent today. Member Nath,
I didn't hear what you said, yes.
Yeah.
Member Nath,
Okay, present.
Member Gallardi,
Here.
Member Gogra is absent today, and Council Representative McKenzie.
Here.
For staff and ex officio members present today are Executive Director Frandl, Community Development Director Roberts, EDA Secretary Cherney, and Finance Director Winnick.
Thank you very much. A motion to adopt the agenda, please.
I'll make that motion.
So move. Member Nath?
I'll second.
Second. Member McKenzie? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, please?
I will make that motion.
Representative
I'll second.
Yep. Seconded by Matthews. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Nobody's here, so nothing open to the public. So off we go. It's all yours.
All right, thank you. First up, we have two items on our agendas today. First up is the EDA 2026 preliminary budget, and we have our Finance Director, Dan Winnick, here to discuss.
President Mungy and members of the Economic Development Authority, thank you very much for giving me a moment to kind of talk to you about what we're proposing for the 2026 budget and the 2026 levy. This upcoming City Council meeting on the 16th, the City Council will be certifying their maximum tax levy. And one component part of that tax levy is the Economic Development and Authority levy. So kind of want to get your input, make sure that you're supportive of what we're going to do for the budget and for the levy for the Economic Development Authority. And so kind of walk you through kind of where we ended up from a financial standpoint at the end of 2024, kind of take a look at what we've, from a budgetary, both revenue and expenditure side this year, and then kind of what we have for the proposed budget and the levy. So the current financial information, as of December 31st, 2024, you can see that you have assets and liabilities and fund balance equaling $610,000. You have cash and investments of $558,000. So as you've seen in last year's, when we prepared the budget, you're sitting in a pretty good position. We've got pretty good cash in the Economic Development Authority Fund. And if we look at what we're doing this year, you can see from a revenue standpoint, we have, collected 114. So you have a total current budget of $267,000 is what we estimated. You've already collected, half of your property taxes. The other half doesn't come in till end of December, and then there's a little bit that comes in January that we collect. And you can see that you're sitting pretty good. You're over the 50% mark for revenues, which, is in very good position. But then if you look at your expenditures, you had a budget of $267,000. You've only spent just under $74,000 to date. So at the end of August. So again, sitting very well from your revenue expenditures for this year. We can take a little bit deeper dive into the revenue side to it. And you can see that you've collected half of your property tax, a little bit more than half of the property taxes. I do a very conservative estimate as far as I do not estimate anything for market value adjustments because it's unpredictable. It really goes on how the interest rates of our investments are going if things go up and down, and so does the market value adjustment. Truthfully, the market value adjustment equalizes itself out over the term of any type of investment, so it can go up at some point in time, but we hold everything to maturity, so then it ends up offsetting itself by the time that our investments are matured. The investment income very conservative $2,000 that we estimate. You can see we've collected already $8,700 in interest. So again, on the revenue side, everything's looking very good. You're going to end up going above what was the total revenue that was budgeted for the current year of 2025. On the expenditure side, really the only thing that really has been spent has been personnel, services on the personnel side to it. There hasn't been, there's a little bit on insurances, and then there's transfers of $10,000 that occur, and half of it's been transferred to date, and you'll have the other half of that $10,000 will be transferred in the next 2 quarters. So again, everything's looking very, very good from this standpoint, and so unless there's something that the city manager and myself is unaware of some huge needs coming up into the future of the Economic Development Authority, we're kind of looking at that the preliminary budget that we're looking at, that we would recommend that we stay with the same levy. We're currently in 2025 levied just under $201,000, and we're proposing to keep it there at that $201,000. We're still increasing our cash, we're still increasing our fund balance. Again, from a historical perspective, we haven't seen that there's been any big draw that's coming out of it on the expenditure side that would start to draw down that cash into our fund balance. Not to say that in the future things can't change. So we're kind of recommending, and again, for your input, we're recommending keeping it the same. The budget is pretty much in line with what we had for the 2025. You'll see that the personnel services decrease about just under $18,000, and that's part of an agreement that we made with the Economic Development Authority last year, that we started implementing it last year, where the community development director, when the position was created, probably now it's been about 3.5 years, that at that point in time, to have city council approve the addition of the economic development or the community development position, 50% of the funding came from the Economic Development Authority. This group decided that was way too high, and we all agreed. So we've been ratcheting that down, was the approach that we took, and it was agreed to last year. So last year, it was dropped down to 40%. This year in 2026, it's dropped down to 30%. And then next year, we'll drop it down to 20%, and that's where we agreed to have that level of the community development's director's time being allocated to the EDA. And so you can see how we've, at 50% was the first year in 2023. It was the same in 24, 25, again, dropped it down, and so forth. So we're right on path to what we agreed to. And so again, it's just kind of another indication that there really isn't a huge need, again, unless there's something that you're planning bigger in the future, that to really change what we're levying. Statute allows the Economic Development Authority a certain percentage, it's like 0.000184 or something like that, of the total taxable market value, which when it gets calculated would amount to about $280,000. That's the maximum that you could ever levy at this point in time. And of course, as market values increase, that dollar amount will incrementally increase because the statute and the percentage hasn't changed for many years. So that's kind of the full disclosure of everything, but we're kind of comfortable at just about a $201,000 levy. The combination of that levy staying the same for the EDA, HRA is being proposed at just $11,000 because, again, they have a lot of fund balance. The needs that the HRA has really been primarily focused on the student-built housing, which is pretty close to been a break-even point. We've made a little bit of money off of that, but there, again, not that need on the HRA. And then you combine that with what the city has, and the city has a number of different components as far as their levy is concerned. Traditionally, it's always the city operations for the base structures of the departments, public safety, administration, finance, community development, and so forth, in addition, debt. And we have, in the last couple of years, we'll be moving on to our, I think about our third year, we've been levying additional amounts for infrastructure. And so we've broken it into 3 different components, one for our streets, one for our facilities, and one for our parks. Combining all of those, what will be presented next Tuesday to City Council, and City Council at their last meeting was in agreement, so I've drafted up the budgets accordingly, the levy budgets and the resolutions. We will be proposing an 8% total levy increase, including all of those components in the HRA and the EDA. That's kind of where we're looking at, with the caveat that in 2027 budget, that'll be our target again at 8%. For those who aren't as familiar with our levying component, those 3 components of the facilities, streets, and parks, to fund our capital improvement plan over the next 10 years is going to require approximate just under a 6% levy on an annual basis. So when you look at that, there's not a lot of room for other types of growth, which our department heads underneath the leadership of our city manager has really tried to tighten the belt and trying to make sure that we can achieve those. And so that's where we've come up with, we did have our preliminary levy was combined, all of the components was at about 5.84%. We added a little money for the parks, and then we've added a little room that going into 2027, we won't have to levy as much to try to build a little bit of that room so we can cover our cost of living that's already agreed to in our contracts and any step increases for our personnel, but pretty much holding all of our expenses the same. That is a real big high-level snapshot of kind of the city's budget process. I'm going to leave you right there and ask if there's any questions, discussion, anything that you would like to know, and then kind of want to get your sense and feel that you support where we're looking at for this levy for the Economic Development Authority.
I have a question. When I'm looking at the budget for 2025, there were contractual services of $125,783, and that was a significant jump from 23 and 24. What is that for?
Which page are you?
It is,
Page 7?
it's not, the pages aren't numbered. I think it's if you go to the next page after the one you're on. Yeah, I think you're looking, this is the page, this is what it looks like.
Oh, the actual budget itself.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so in 2022, what you're really seeing, the big component of that made up that $191,000 that in contractual services that was spent, was a loan that was given to Max Diner. I think the dollar amount was $125,000. It has a 5-year component to it that they need to maintain the equipment. That was a kind of an equipment loan that was forgivable, that after 5 years, the loan is totally forgiven. If they were to terminate it any time before that, they would pay, a prorated share on an annual basis. So that drove up that, what you're seeing for the actuals for 2022. If you see after that, 23, 24, there's been very, very little that has been spent. You can already see in 25 budget, and that's where the page I was on. You can see there's only been, in contractual services, just under $2,200 spent. The intent of the 125,000 for this year and for next year is that there was conversations last year that you wanted to, part of the decision to pull down the percentage of the community development director was that you were going to hire a consultant to help out with some of the economic development needs of the city. And so that's where the decision was to, increase that dollar amount to allow you to do that. In addition, I think there was discussion on if it was a downtown manual, city manager, that part to it, and that the Economic Development Authority would fund that too.
Yeah, right now, we haven't done anything with that, so it shouldn't
Correct.
go anywhere near the 125 then.
For this year, absolutely. That's what I'm saying, where you're sitting.
2,200.
Yeah, you're going to end up increasing your cash, your fund balance significantly in 2025.
used it.
Because you haven't used it.
Correct.
Correct.
Kind of the way the market was sitting with new builds and different things, we kind of put brakes on that until we saw
Correct.
a better light.
Correct.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions, discussions, thoughts?
On ours, and I can't remember how, maybe we went over it, I apologize if we did already, but right now, for development, we have the, across the street, Margaret Commons, they call it, and then the one in between. What is that property in? Is it in the EDA, or is it in the general, or do we know as far as
There's
put things in the EDA? I know we redid it one time, I thought we did, but
there's only one parcel that's in the EDA right now. I do believe it's an old
that gas station
gas
thing?
station.
Either one of those sites.
Yeah, it's neither one of those sites are included in there. They're included in the county overall, or the city overall.
So the city bought them.
Yeah.
Is there a way that,
Well, I'm not necessarily even going to say that, because from prior to my arrival here, going back and looking at it, somebody had made a decision to transfer some of those properties into, I think the EDA actually originally purchased it, and it was always, the fixed asset was booked into the Economic Development Authority, but there was a decision to transfer it out.
That's correct. My understanding, there's no properties under the EDA anymore.
Just one, just that one
Which
gas
one is
station.
it?
I think it's the gas
old gas
station that's
station on
on there.
Seventh and
Okay.
Yeah.
7th and McKnight, that
Yeah.
little triangle
That
corner.
little,
triangle
the,
thing there?
Who owns the property
Okay.
up there on the corner of 17th and Century, that old Lord gas station up there, that corner, that little spot?
We do, but it's a
That's it.
city.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's where on the balance sheet itself, you'll see assets held for resale. That parcel's valued at the point
My part of it
49,000.
is
But
we have the $600,000 in there, and the land is not purchased. I think it would be purchased from the EDA's funds to be able to do that kind of stuff and have it in the name of it. But it
Have to
may
go
not
back
have
and
been
look at that. Of where it originally came from, if it was EDA
Yeah.
or was it, yeah.
I mean, we're trying to do better at keeping our accounts straight and breaking them up and like on everything we've been doing. So,
yeah, I don't know if the necessarily, I mean, because you can have it both ways. I mean, you can register it underneath the EDA, you can register it underneath the city. The city council is making that final decision piece to it. Kind of more of a, because actually the EDA does have the authorities. But the city council is making that kind of a ratification decision on any economic development authority changes or moves. So, I mean, we definitely can look at what was a rationale back at that point in time to why it was transferred away from there. I can't answer that at this point in time, but definitely we'll
well, that's
take a
what
look
the
at
fund
that.
is for. The 200 a year is for us to purchase. It says right in there, purchase
Mm-hmm.
land and things like that.
Yep.
So, you don't have this build up while we got other things being bought by other funds. So I was just curious to see if there's any kind of transfer we have to do to make things right, if it wasn't that way, as far as how the land was purchased.
Sure, we'll
Keep
take
the books straight.
we'll take a
Make
look to
sense
see why.
Anybody else?
Indeed.
Just kind of keep it, if that's where it was supposed to be and it wasn't underneath that, it's under the EDA funds.
I believe too, there can be legal aspects of it that, being under the EDA, I think it might be available for certain grants that maybe it's not under a city. I think there's just different caveats with that too, depending on where people put it. I've heard like was it Oakdale that bought Tanner's Lake and then immediately turned around and put it into their EDA. I knew there was some benefit for it when they did that, so. But yeah, we'll have to go
Plus,
back.
just to keep it balanced, I mean, as far as taking out the right buckets and making sure we're not getting all this money in, but not spending it because it's coming in another where, if we want to buy any more land or anything like that, it
Sure.
does come up.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? And kind of want to sense we're in agreement or supportive of the budget being proposed. Again, it doesn't get final approval until December, but, and then for the levy at just under $201,000.
Do you need a motion?
I would like to have a motion, absolutely,
I'll
because
make
you
the
do have
Motion by
your authority.
Nath, second?
Second?
Second by Member Matthews. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate the hard work.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, why don't you, just in case, if you don't mind. All right, so next item up is the community center land future discussions. We just wanted to give you a status update of where we're at with that and maybe thoughts and ideas of what you thought on directions moving forward. So, just a little background. We got the funding or grants from state and federal to kind of update the community center into a multicultural center after doing my feasibility study when it came to, we hired an engineering and architectural firm to look at that. Just looking at all the numbers and what it took to get where we're at and future, because one of the aspects of those grants is you have to run it as whatever you had asked for the money for the next, probably 25 years. And if that's not the case, they can come back and say, well, it's really not part of the program. We'd like our money back. So clearly we couldn't do that. It was a long go, gathering all that information and presenting it to the council, and it's been determined that we were going to be turning that money back, but in the same breath, we're going to be asking for a redirect of the money towards potentially, it looks like the option that was picked on was a new water tower, which that was part of our CIP for probably, was it 28, 29, something in that neighborhood? It's already got moved over. So that would be the plan. If we can redirect that, then we could bump that up as far as funding goes. There are different ideas. It's still pretty open for what options are available. We have had an interest of potentially somebody buying it, and if that was the case, it would have to go back to council to say, are you guys willing to separate with the land and sell it outright? Or do we move forward and say, because our concern is the library is still in there. Library, there is kind of a big want from the public, from people who have been outspoken that they'd like to see it stay here. So trying to figure out what we need to do with them. They are still 5 years left of a contract left. So do we find another place for them to be that we can set them up here? And that was actually one of the things with the potential sale of it, that they would agree to sublease that to the city and leave the library there for the duration as long as they were there. If that works out, I was hoping to have heard back from that person by today, but I haven't heard back from them to give you guys an update on that. So that's still up in the air. Or, if we do decide that just having them there, though, there's a lot of money that needs to be put into that building. Things have been kind of pushed to the wayside, and including RTUs that are in that building. So when it comes to the heating over the winter, I don't even know that it will last the winter. We've kind of patched things together to get them to where we are now. They were supposed to get a new roof 2 years ago if we had moved forward with the grant program. So there's a lot of needs there. If we could find another place for them to move to, I think that would be ideal if we were to continue on with the library. So there's just a lot of things to figure out yet. And then there's going to be extra costs for that as well. We got to move a generator that's over there. There is a IT room that's over there that has some of the fiber backup for our main fiber system that is kind of in our room downstairs. So there's still some cost available with that is going to have to be taken care of. But just kind of want to bounce it off you guys and see what you thought. Any ideas that would make more sense if you agree with, because one idea as well is let's just say they tear down the building. And with the idea of taking some of the funds, being that the water department wouldn't have to pay the cost of a $4.5 million water tower, do we pay for that with the grant funds? And then with what the money would have been spent out of the water department, take some money, maybe half of that cost, and redirect it for some kind of a development at the community center? You know, which there's been ideas of a concept of a kind of an open type building, I mean, being closed, but have the ability of having garage doors on each end to where you could have like an arts fair, farmer's market, just different ideas that the building could be used for. Nothing's set in stone yet, but those are just some ideas that were floating around, and thought we'd bounce it off you guys and see what you guys thought of that, and if you had any ideas of your own.
And also, the grant difference between the money they gave us and what it would cost was $3 million that we would have to come up with to actually complete the community center with nothing done on the inside, pretty much basic, and then whoever moved in there would have to remodel after that, so.
And that's just the building. And
Correct.
There
That's
could have
just the
been
outside.
labor costs, yeah.
And the other part was the library. I went down and spoke to the head librarian afterwards. I didn't want her to hear about it after, so I had a good conversation with her. She was watching it on YouTube, and she understood that financially it really didn't make sense. So it was nice to hear that instead of saying, "Get out of my library."
You went down
Yeah,
to
went
see it.
down
Good for
and
you.
talked to her, yeah.
Good.
So when mentioned, and we talked about different things, and we also brought up, and we tried to reach out, but they don't have any time until the end of September to talk to the library to see what their, you know, there's been some talk of cuts coming up and different things like that. What is the future of the North St. Paul Library, you know, where we would be at with them. So I think that's at the end of September.
Last Friday of the month.
Last Friday of the month is when we'll be able to just sit down with them and just explain to them where we are with the building. You know, what are their plans as far as, you know, right now they provide the books in the librarians, so that type of thing. And is that something that could be moved to a different spot if we could do something like that? Or, so we're just gonna just bounce off and just understand their needs and where we're sitting with the building. And there's one other one I wanted to bring up that, I forget who mentioned it at the council meeting, and I'd like to get Andrew's opinion on it, is some people talked about 20 years of not selling the land, but they can do the building for 20 years, but the land stays with us. I don't know much about that, and I don't know how popular that is. Do you want to explain that a little bit more, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, you can structure an agreement, a sale agreement any which way you want, so we could actually sell the building. And your terms and conditions could be whatever you want for, you know, in say 20, 25 years, they do a land lease for $1. So in other words, the city never loses ownership of the land itself. That seems to be where I think a lot of the council members had thought that that's where the value is, especially when you're sitting in a city that, you know, is fully developed, pretty much fully developed, and you really just don't have the land piece to it. And so that was a kind of a concept or a thought. I think, you know, the decision that city council had made to not continue to pursue the grants, at least for the community center in how it was written to legislation and approved, because of what we've seen from the last consultant on EAPC. That decision has kind of pushed this dialogue with city council. I will just kind of share with this group kind of real quickly, because Brian did an excellent job of kind of giving that high level
have a picture of what it looks
synopsis
like,
to it.
Strange
No, I
piece
was
of
just gonna,
property.
so what we had asked city council to do last time, so, you know, it was on the August 19th that city council approved, doing away with the EAPC study, the feasibility, and then to kind of look at canceling those grants and maybe reallocating it. But what we did was we had city council kind of do brainstorming activities, looking at 3 different components, options for the reallocation of the grant funds. That's what came out of the discussion, and it's really kind of want to get your thoughts and your feedback onto it was, you know, you would have to turn down and Brian knows this better than I do, you turn down the funds and then you try to basically put in another submission to legislation in hopes that they would reallocate those funds. And so the water tower was kind of the thought from the consensus from the city council that that would be the opportunity. And then that would potentially free up some money that could be utilized for something else in the city in developing. And that really didn't get totally flushed out, but that's again kind of a discussion item if you have some thoughts or ideas onto that. And then it clearly came out. So on that first part, I kind of labeled it that at the end of the day, of however that reallocation of the grant funds turns out, is that if there can be something that could come out of it that could be a community benefit, would be kind of the overall theme that would come out of that. Number two, when we were looking for options for the Ramsey County Library, it became crystal clear that the city wants to retain the library. And so that's where, kind of giving, some of your thoughts or, what you think about it. But, and again, that discussion won't take place with Ramsey County towards the end of this month. But to find out, can we relocate them somewhere else that would be able to provide the services that they're doing? Again, how that would be, that makeup of that, we don't know. Or would we be required to continue to pay some sort of lease for them? We have to, for your information, Ramsey County does a 2-year budget cycle. They just, their county manager just proposed early in September their 2-year budget cycle for 26 and for 27. They were looking at, I think, 9 3/4 and 7.5% levy increases. Anticipating some of the cuts that they've received from the federal level. And then we don't know what the state biennium in 28-29 is going to look like, but there were definitely some, in city council, you've heard that information, definitely some shifts in there that the state was looking at, billions of dollars of a deficit. So there would end up being potentially some other cuts. So that conversation with Ramsey County needs to take place, how that financial component would look. Don't know how that would look, but it was clear that city council wanted to keep that library. I mean, that was paramount. And then the other part was looking at that community center, and that's where the president, I'm going to keep calling you mayor, the president, Mungie, had talked about is that I threw out there that there is always that possibility that you could lease the land for $1. For 20-25 years. You can structure the sale any which way you want. I tied it at 20-25 years just because you have a roof, and as Brian said, you have the HVAC in the building that needs to be replaced. Normally that has a useful life of somewhere in that 20-25 year range. So, if you had somebody take over that facility, and at this point in time there is really only one that has come forward or had shown interest in the past that Brian has made contact with. Not to say that there's maybe somebody else out there who would be interested in that, but that's kind of where we're at, and it's really kind of opening it up to other thoughts, other ideas, maybe other structures, from a sale perspective, a leasing perspective, whatever you think could possibly be viable, even to the point of demoing everything down and turning the land over for some sort of future development. So,
Just a real quick thing, as far as the grant, it's for the water tower and moving it, it's a cash grant, so it's not like it's a bond where they have to, that's gonna help our cause to try to be able to repurpose it. And we talked to Leon Lilly, and he's willing to go to bat and is okay with what we were talking about doing, so. Those are the two other things. Thank you. Anybody have any ideas?
I like the water tower idea. I mean, that adds value to a city. It's a good thing for future development. I like that. And then you talked about repurposing or reallocating monies that would go to that water department into the community center. I do see a lot of land leases and a lot of companies like a Walgreens or a CVS, they do a land lease because they don't want that asset. They don't want the liability on their books. The one negative I see with the land lease is that now you're committed to this thing for 25 years. you're in partnership with whoever is there for 25 years, good or bad. You know, I see a lot of organizations and, that sold their real estate over the years because they went into some financial challenges, and they had to go back out there and repurchase those things, and they paid up for it. So I think we need to be thoughtful about what we're gonna do with this thing. And if we, in my mind, if we could patch it and lease it to someone for the next few years until the economy shakes out to how it's gonna shake out, because I think there's a lot of concern in Wall Street about a pending recession. We know, just from my world, I know that there aren't a lot of buyers out there for commercial space. And if you sell it, you're gonna lose a lot. I'm not sure what the bids are coming in at, but I gotta think we could patch this thing cheaply and lease it. I mean, I just don't know. I'm shooting from the
Who
hip
was the
here.
one company or business that has thought about going in there? Can you share that? Or if you
Volleyball
don't,
team that was in there before.
that was the volleyball team.
And just to elaborate on the costs, there's nothing insignificant about some of these costs. I mean, one of them is like the roof, I mean, which is probably $700,000.
So it's big numbers.
The RTU units are hundreds of thousands of
What
dollars.
is it, what is an?
I think we
what
had
is-
three, that's,
Rooftop
yeah,
units.
rooftop.
Oh, there
units.
was stuff.
Yeah.
I think we had like a bid of 3 million just to get it limping, I mean, to get it, just the basic shell stuff
Right.
done to keep it from leaking.
So one of the problems, like going down like a triple net lease or something like
Yeah.
that, and having the tenant responsible, like I would find it hard to believe to get a business in there in the shape of it being at 3 million. It's just so far gone. I totally agree, like patching it together, but I think the liability and asset of where it sits now is still gonna be, very cumbersome on the city. I just don't see it. Because it's just too far gone.
The condition of that space.
The condition of it,
I haven't
yeah.
been in that
No, I
building in
know,
100 years,
it's
so-
just every survey, everything that the city's done and council, I mean, it's just, the building's so far gone. Now, I mean, we have so many customers, in my space that do triple net leases. But not in this scenario.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Right.
It's just
And the
not.
only way to make it, feasible for any business that would go in there is that would have to be a very long-term component to
Exactly.
it, to offset that 3
hence
million.
that-
And that's where that 2020, yeah.
Somebody's
unfortunately.
gonna have to pay the 3 million to get that thing back up and going.
Or they put, that was back in the 90s where they used to just put, like, I don't know what- not even tar, the siding of the.
That's
of the-
exactly.
Of the, it was like a stucco, and then, so the birds would peck at it, then the squirrels would chew through it, then they'd go run through the attic of the library. So we have all these stop signs and different signs, patching holes across the building with painted and things like that. So, yeah, unfortunately, since the day it was built, it never really got any loving. So it's really out there.
I think it's a great idea, though, trying to patch something together, I just don't,
It's too
I
far
think we
gone.
could sit here for months and trying to come up with stuff, and I don't know how you do it.
It's about $250 to tear down, they said, and then the move, we don't even got a price on the moving of the generator. Of course, if it's our land, the generator could stick right there.
How much is the maintenance per year? We've talked about it.
80-some thousand, almost 90, right now, without doing repairs, it's just.
And it's 250.
Electricity, that's just the bare
And it's
bones,
250 just to tear it down.
250,000 tear it down, correct.
So we have another meeting, though, going back to, Brian started, asking us for our opinion. We have another meeting before the end of the year, right?
December, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that we should challenge ourselves to come back to the meeting in December. Each of us should have one or two ideas of what we would like to see possibly go in there. Because I don't think we can come up like,
Oh, no.
you know what I mean, like now, like let's
Just
take
get
a
the
step
juices
back
flowing.
here. Let's think about it, and we can put our 2 cents in, and then,
Yep.
and.
And you
then
get a
go
map
from
of
there.
it, I mean, it's very weird shaped, I mean, it's, the land is as big as the community center. The parking lot, comes across, and it looks like it's part of the the Franklin built, apartments, and then you got the VFW, so it's really a strange spot. I mean, anything in there is gonna be very difficult just because of the parking restrictions in the building. Yes?
Mr. President, it's about 1.3 acres.
1.3?
Is there a spec sheet on this thing that, have you taken it out to potential businesses to say, hey, do you want to rent this thing, lease this thing?
No, because the other council voted not to sell it and to go for grants and
Okay.
try to fix it up. So now we're going back because of the $3 million, and it's nothing against what the other council had no idea how much the bids were. We thought, I know when they were talking about it originally, they thought maybe like $4 million, it, probably would cover it, but it's so expensive nowadays that by the time it was done, we got 7, then by the time we're done it was 8.2 million, I think, to do it.
Yeah, there wasn't necessarily a true, I was going to say, RFP, or request for proposals on the facility, but we did throw out there looking more of somebody who would be a partner or end up leasing in the facilities. And there was a number of respondents. They never completely filled out the information and provided all the information that we needed, but correct me if I'm wrong, there wasn't a lot of interest.
There was no
I-
official one. It was
We
just a
did some
request for
tours.
interest.
I think we did like 3 tours, and as soon as we got to the building and there was no outdoor space, there was a group that wanted to be able to do powwows outside. Well, that's Franklin's Yard, that's not this one. And the parking and the outside space were the 2 things that people just couldn't get over. The Vietnam that fought with Americans, they had their group, they wanted it, but everybody wanted outside and more parking, so.
Theater group, but
Yep, so there was a bunch of groups, but I just couldn't get a partner out of it because of the limitations of that space.
So come back in December with some thoughts onto it. Here's the thought. If the city were to sell that building, and it has a unique configuration, it's predominantly a gymnasium, because it was a community center. You've heard some of the costs, and we definitely can supply you with, information that Wold Architects had done. We can give you the information that EAPC, it's all public information. What would it be worth to sell, knowing that somebody buying it would have to invest pretty much immediately, just like Brian had said, approximately $3 million for, you definitely going to would want to do the roof, because there's been leaks in that roof for a number of years, and then the HVAC. So when you take all that in consideration, what would be the purchase price, knowing that somebody would have to have a significant capital layout right off the beginning?
Be one heck of a deal.
Or is it better to, if the city's not going to keep it, to tear it down and have a vacant development site ready to go?
It is a public parking lot right now with the building to it, so half of it is really a parking lot that's a city parking lot. It has, North St. Paul signs on it, so it's just the building part of it now that, is, I don't know how big, not that huge spot.
I would think it's worth more tearing it down and selling the land and selling the building, and,
Okay, if they were to tear it down, would they regrade it down to the First Street level? Because, there's steps going up on the old First Street, or what is North St. Paul Road now. There's steps up into it, so it's built up higher on the west side of the building than it is on the east side.
They will grade it.
They would have to be graded all the way down flat and level.
That's the plan.
That's what I would think, so we'd have a fresh slate for when they're rebuilding.
It almost has to be like something else being developed, like if the VFW or if some other group wanted to expand or something, because right now it's just, the way it's wedged, it's really tough to get something else in there.
we're off the cuff comments of the neighboring owner of the property, that Webster, that they might be interested in, but it was never official or got into depth with conversations, so that's an option too, since they already own the property right next to it.
Webster?
Franklin Apartment.
Franklin, okay.
Webster.
Yeah. Weber's, okay.
Or Weber, excuse me.
Yeah, okay. Well, that'd be, they own all that property up to it then, don't they?
Correct.
So they could actually add on to their whole building.
And the building across the street that runs along 7th Avenue.
Yeah, right, the old bowling alley.
So it's just something we wanted to get out, you know, things have changed. EDA is the proper group to be able to, we want to make sure that we're, you know, planning would be something, if we decide to put some in there, we go to them and say, does this fit the planning? But as far as the EDA, it's in our downtown, it's, you know, is it something that's valuable to us to hold on to? Is it more valuable to, so that's where we're just at, just to get ideas and see what people's thoughts are. We can send out, you have the map on
So
there?
Ken will show you a map. A question when we were going through just for, again, for that future thought piece to it, when you're starting to go down the path of demoing it and grading it and so forth, then the question comes, how much is the land worth? And so Mr. Nath may have more information on this, but
Excuse me, Booth, can we have the map on our front screen too, please? Thank you very much.
This is the city here.
2,300.
Yeah, and the two small parcels here are part of it too, right here.
Would it include the parking lot next to it or not?
Yes.
So that goes all the way up to that street, our parking lot, narrow. It splits theirs in half almost, doesn't it? Or their roundabout is the start of our parking lot to go through their front?
No, we own the roundabout, but
own
they
the
have
roundabout
a
too?
perpetual lease. We don't own, well, at the very top of that roundabout, there's a kind of a U shape. They own
Yeah,
that.
they own the U shape.
Correct.
So on the
There's
top
line
there,
going
got it.
through right there, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The line goes all the way through,
But the other,
All this is,
yeah. All the
got
way
it.
up to the
Thank
building.
you.
Cool.
but if I may, you can see how it's wall to wall,
Yep.
property line to property.
Sure.
line, Virtually the whole thing. It was maxed out. One challenge that may come up for any redevelopment is, with current watershed regulations, what are they gonna do for stormwater management? Nowadays, it's always ponding or underground systems, and that'll be an additional expense.
Yeah.
And/or take some of the land away that would be available. Unless the neighbor to the north buys it, and then they can incorporate it somehow.
Weber? That's something that definitely, that's a good thought to remember. Just because you take it down doesn't mean you're gonna get all that space back. That's happened to the 17th Delaware development. They had to have that wet space, wetland behind it, which went from 2.4 acres to 0.80 acres, I think, because of the wetland.
How would something like that even work with the development? Because it's all more or less, it's either hard surface or building, the entire lot. So you're not taking away any green space with that? I don't know how that works when they're determining.
I noticed
Requirements.
in the parking lot, they do have a couple spaces that are trees and greens in between. You can see there's a few green spots in there for some, little bit of whatever it would be.
What, a developer might make the case that if, let's say the current site is 95% impervious, if they got it down to 85 or 80%, made it better, would that be good enough for the watershed district? Don't know. Because it would be an improvement over the existing conditions.
But if the Weber Group were to purchase it, the watershed, it wouldn't be as big of a deal if the owner next door would purchase it? Would that be a different scenario?
Yeah, because he has green land over.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It, definitely more flexibility, but it is the pat answer is it depends.
Sure, sure.
And what would they do with it? Would they want more housing or add that, make the community center safe for more parking and then put an addition on the existing building?
Well, they buy the property and they could add on to the their own building itself.
Correct. Up in here potentially.
Well, that was good to bring up, because I didn't even think of, I know the watershed kind of rules the roost on everything, so. All right. Nothing else?
I think we'll move on to just give you guys quick updates.
Thank you.
What we have. Yeah, thanks for the conversation. Just for your information, talked to Article 7 earlier today, and they are completely filled up at capacity as of last
That's
Thursday.
awesome.
So that's really awesome.
Article 7?
Article 7, yeah.
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 In the front, on the first level, they had 9 work-live units. The idea, concept is, you might have an artist or something out front, and then they could have living quarters behind. They actually only have one business that's in there. It's a photography place, but they don't live there. It's strictly a business place for them. But thought that was pretty nice for them. One thing I wanted to throw by you guys and see what you thought about it was with our current facade improvement program, the concept idea was to improve our downtown. So we're going from First Street down to Highway 120, and then from Margaret, from 7th Avenue to the bridge. We've had 2 successful applications for the facade improvement program. I've actually talked to 2 people today from the Business Association, but they are not the owners of the building. They are just occupants, so they didn't know if that would work. But do we want to expand this? This is one thing that we talked about originally. But, you have some of these, the strip malls to where, anybody in the building isn't going to be the owner, more than likely. Would it be feasible to be looking at other places for facade improvement as what the program is? Does it even make sense? Of course, we'd love to see it more downtown. That's the whole idea of it, but just wanted to get your idea about that and see if we expand that.
I was driving through North St. Paul today, and the folks at the Schleck building are getting their new windows in today.
Nice, good deal.
So I imagine Sweeties would be coming pretty quick then.
Again, they don't own the building.
But the next door people.
Yeah, so, but hopefully.
Yeah.
Could we go back to the VFW and ask them to amend their request so that it conforms to the facade improvement rules?
We can have a conversation, absolutely.
I mean, I like the VFW, I like what they bring to the table, I like what they do.
Yep. And it's one of the original things that we talked about when we were trying to pull the requirements of the program. One of them was signage. At first, we just said no. Later, we talked about, well, maybe it depends on the situation, or only if you're improving the facade, if you're doing tuck pointing or something like that, and you have to remove the sign, does it make sense to go back? Because one of the businesses that inquired about it at the Business Association, they weren't the owner of the building, but they were looking at their sign. So just want to throw that out there for you guys too, on what your thoughts are for people who do that. They're not necessarily the owner, but, when they're done, and do they take their sign with them? And because it won't do any good to leave it there anymore. If somebody else rents the place, chances are. So just want to get you guys' input on that.
I think that was kind of the first reason why we didn't, because the signage could be gone when they moved type of thing. So I think that was the part of that first time we were talking about it. I can't remember if we changed the
Yeah,
lines on it.
well, that and we wanted to keep it more infrastructure.
Yep.
I mean, I have no problem, I don't know how you guys feel, looking at it by case basis, and making a decision. I think, if it's a business that wants a new sign, but the infrastructure on the outside needs to be updated to put a sign on, I don't want to just put a sign on the outside of a building, where the infrastructure needs to be new tuck pointed or whatever. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's do both. But we can look at it case by case basis. I'm open to
That makes sense to me.
Only thing is-
but I think in the VFW back end, like, hey, relationship, how can we help you guys? No, we're not willing to do this, but we're willing to listen to this. Like, let's
And
see if
we
we
are
can work together here. We're not,
And we're bound by what the rules and regulations say. I mean, it's just, we don't have flexibility yet, so, but how could you change?
Correct.
What you're asking for to help us make that decision?
I know part of it too with us when it came to the planning commission and stuff like that was signage, you know, what it says and things like that. You know, how you deny one without denying another when you go through with that type of thing too. So I know
Yeah.
that became something where all of a sudden it's maybe offensive to some people, but they like it, you know, then that becomes part of it too.
Are we doing something, I know I've talked to a lot of the businesses downtown, you know, I've told them about this. Is there anything that we can do better to get this out there or excite people more about it, to have them use it? I think the city's done a good job. I've seen it posted. It's out there. There's just not
Yeah,
enough.
question I have is because this is, you know, downtown or mom and pop shops, you own
Yeah.
your own building, right? So I'm assuming that most of them, you know, Luther has a few buildings here, so he's not, but I'm assuming a lot of people that have their business own their building in downtown North St. Paul, correct? So you're not going to, you know, that'd be great to them. They turn around, well, I don't own the building, you know, that type of thing, so. I don't know what our percentage is, you know, are we talking to the right people? You know, is it the, you know, how does it get to that level if they don't own it?
That's certainly part of the issue. I mean, any kind of communication that the city has. I mean, we can put it on our website. I don't know how many people are going to our website. You know, we can put it in a utility billing as an insert. There's so many people that just take out what they owe, fill out the check and send it back, or just do automatic deposits. Some people don't even open them up. So, yeah, it's how do you get that information to them so they can know it and see it? I mean, again, we talked earlier about potentially even door-to-door, walking in, which is certainly a possibility. There's not that many businesses downtown.
Is there a North St. Paul Business Association?
No,
That was emphatic.
no.
Right.
There's a new name.
Widened it.
What
Go
is it
ahead.
called now? What's the new name?
It's, help me out here. It's not the Business Association anymore. It's the
It's like
Chamber of Commerce,
new name's
something,
formed,
yeah.
So could we get that messaging out to them?
And we did that today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
Yep.
but if they do have a mailing or something we could attach to, like, an email that would
Sure.
go specifically to them, that'd be wonderful,
Like a blast
you know?
to them.
Yeah, yeah.
In the two that today didn't own their buildings that were interested, correct?
Correct.
All right, well,
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Once you open that door, you can't control it. So.
all right. The only other thing, I don't know if you want to touch on it real quick, is do you have any updates on the pine tree? Can you talk about anything that was said? That we can call her a day?
Got them an email, or got an email from them last week that they do have an interested party, but the interested party has a couple ideas in mind. Initially, we had said that they might want to do like townhomes in the area, so that's still one option. They've actually talked about a gas station again, and potentially with a gas station with apartments above it. And they just wanted to know that, is that acceptable to the city? So, you know, we wanted to bring it up at the EDA, you know, eventually it'd be something you'd get in front of the planning commission and council, of course, but, you know, what your guys' thoughts were on these ideas?
A gas station with apartments above
I
it.
thought the same thing, but then I thought, you know what, they've got apartments above bars too, so.
Yeah.
Would it be two buildings then?
That was different too, especially when you got the lights of a
no.
gas station.
Be part of the building, yeah.
And I think of pollution issues. And
Smelly, yeah.
Yeah.
A bar's one thing.
Noise and, yeah.
I just wanted to let you know what they reached out to on us. We
Yeah.
don't know, you know, it's their stage, at least they're, you know, getting some information and there's people are interested,
And
so.
the interest part is
Correct,
is
is the key,
Yeah.
yes.
That's good.
One last thing is this, and this more or less talks through the grapevine, but it sounds like somebody who's in the know a little bit of the Mueller Funeral Home for that spot down there on McKnight, that sounds like they may have heard something about them getting some of their finances together, so more to come if we find anything out about official, but we'll see. Just, this is more of an FYI, it's more of an HRA thing, but Student Built House is complete, is now on the market. They've had a couple showings, but
That's great.
yeah, they're really,
I
Excellent.
did go
that's
through it.
awesome.
I went through it last week. It was cool in there. Very nice.
They did a great job.
and their program, they had a guy that was just great. Really hard shoes to fill, which they found out because now they don't even have the program anymore. So we're actually shifting to St. Paul College, who will be picking up the program. for the next project, which will be up there at Five Corners on the corner of South Avenue and Seventh Avenue. And talking, putting a duplex in there, or
Twin home.
Twin home. Nice.
It's a piece we already own. So the last one too, they put across from Webster was a weird shaped little bit of a triangle, so it just sat there. Nobody did anything for years. We used it and did a great job designing it. It looks great. So it was something that we got off the books. We got off of us onto a nice spot to be able to do that. And now this other one too is a site we've had for quite a while.
Yeah, actually, that's all I got.
All right. Nothing else. I want to thank everybody. I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate your time, and thanks for your interest.
Anybody else have any comments? I mean, even in general, or to bring to the group?
No, that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I'll call for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved. Member Matthews. Second. McKenzie. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Can I give you this to scratch?
Get this.
Hey, Ray.